The pasta carbonara sat cooling on my dining room table while Dad stood by the window, gesturing at my spare bedrooms like a real estate agent showing a property. Mom scrolled through her phone reviewing moving company quotes. My sister Chelsea sat beside her husband Brad, both of them grinning like they'd won the lottery. I set down my fork carefully and waited. This place is wasted on just you, Dad continued, walking through my 3-bedroom apartment like he owned it. What do you need 3 bedrooms for? You work from home, you're single, no kids. Meanwhile, your mother and I are cramped in that retirement community, and Chelsea and Brad are paying ridiculous rent across town. The spare rooms, Mom added without looking up, are just sitting empty. It's selfish really when family needs space. Chelsea nodded enthusiastically. We calculated it out. Brad and I take the master bedroom, it's bigger anyway and we need the closet space. You can have the smallest bedroom. Mom and Dad get the middle one. We'll share the common areas. Share, I repeated quietly. Obviously we'll need to make some changes, Brad said, already measuring the walls with his eyes. This minimalist thing you have going is depressing. We'll bring some real furniture, some color. Make it feel like a home. Dad turned from the window, his expression magnanimous. We're not trying to impose, sweetie. We're just being practical. You have space you're not using. We're family. Family shares. When are you planning this move? I asked. Tomorrow, Mom said brightly, finally looking up from her phone. I've already booked the movers for 9 a.m. Chelsea and Brad's lease ends this week, so the timing is perfect. Your father and I can be out of the retirement place by month's end. We're month to month anyway. Tomorrow, I echoed. Don't worry about preparing anything, Chelsea said, waving dismissively. We'll handle the logistics. You just need to clear out 2 of the bedrooms tonight. Shouldn't take long, you barely have anything in them anyway. I took a sip of water, considering my response. Through the window behind Dad, I could see the security checkpoint at the building's entrance, the guards he'd walked past without really noticing. Have any of you asked where I live? I said. They looked at each other, confused by the question. What do you mean? Dad asked. You live here. We're sitting in your apartment. But do you know where here is? The specific location, the building, the district. Mom frowned. The Fairmont building, obviously. We've been here a dozen times. The Fairmont Residences, I clarified. On Embassy Row. Specifically, in the international district designated for diplomatic personnel. Silence. So, Brad said uncertainly. It's a nice neighborhood. That's why we want to move in. I pulled out my phone and opened my housing agreement. So this building isn't standard residential property. It's classified as protected diplomatic housing, managed by the International Relations Bureau. Every resident requires security clearance and official authorization. Dad laughed nervously. Sweetie, you're not a diplomat. You work in tech doing whatever it is you do with computers. I'm a senior cybersecurity analyst for the State Department, I said calmly. I've held that position for 6 years. My clearance level is TS/SCI, top secret/sensitive compartmented information. This apartment is provided as part of my government housing package. The laughter died. Government housing? Mom's voice came out weak. Diplomatic housing, I corrected. Reserved for State Department personnel, Foreign Service officers, and approved international staff. This entire building requires security badges for entry. The lobby has armed guards. Every visitor is logged and verified. Chelsea had gone pale. But we've visited before. As my pre-approved guests, I said. Registered 48 hours in advance, background checked and escorted by me at all times. You've never been here alone. You've never had building access. And you've certainly never been authorized to live here. Brad was scrolling through his phone frantically, probably looking up the building's security protocols. His face grew whiter with each search result. This is ridiculous, Dad said, but his voice had lost its confidence. You're saying we can't stay with our own daughter because of some bureaucratic nonsense? I'm saying you can't move into protected diplomatic housing without federal authorization, comprehensive background checks, and security clearance that takes months to obtain, I replied. Even if I wanted you here, which I don't since you didn't ask, you legally cannot reside in this building. Mom set down her phone with shaking hands. You could have mentioned this before we booked movers. You could have asked before booking movers, I countered. You announced you were moving in tomorrow. You measured my walls. You assigned bedrooms. You called my home family property. At no point did you ask if this was even possible. But family, Chelsea started. Family doesn't supersede federal security protocols, I interrupted. This building is protected by the same regulations that cover embassy property. Unauthorized residents aren't just asked to leave, they're arrested for trespassing on secured government property. The apartment suddenly felt very quiet. What happens tomorrow? Mom asked in a small voice. When the movers arrive? They'll be stopped at the outer security perimeter, I said. The building manager will check the authorization list, find no approval for moving additional residents into Unit 7C and deny entry. If they try to proceed anyway, building security will contact federal law enforcement. Brad had found something on his phone. It says here unauthorized entry into diplomatic housing can result in federal charges. Up to 5 years in prison. That seems extreme for family, Dad said weakly. It's not extreme for violating secured federal property, I said. This building houses State Department analysts, Foreign Service officers preparing for overseas assignments, and occasionally foreign diplomats under protection programs. Security isn't a suggestion. It's law. Chelsea was crying now, mascara running. We gave notice on our apartment. We have nowhere to go. You gave notice without confirming you had somewhere to go, I said, not without sympathy but without backing down. That was your choice. We're your parents, Dad said, playing his final card. You'd really let us be homeless rather than help us navigate some red tape? There is no red tape to navigate, I said firmly. You cannot live here. Period. This isn't my personal property that I'm selfishly hoarding. This is government housing with federal security requirements. I don't have the authority to move you in even if I wanted to. Then where are we supposed to go? Mom's voice cracked. Back to your retirement community on month to month, I suggested. Chelsea and Brad can extend their lease or find a new rental. These are the same options you had before you decided my spare rooms were family property. But you have so much space, Chelsea protested. 3 bedrooms for one person. It's not fair. I have 3 bedrooms because my position requires a home office for classified work and a secure storage room for encrypted equipment, I explained. Both are locked rooms you've never seen because they're off-limits to non-cleared personnel. The only spare room is my actual bedroom. My phone buzzed. A text from building security. Miss Chen, we have your family registered for a dinner visit until 8 p.m. Confirming they're departing on schedule. I showed them the message. Security tracks every visitor. Your authorized visit ends in 20 minutes. After that you'll be asked to leave. Asked. Brad said hopefully. Escorted, I corrected. By armed guards if necessary. The next morning at 8:47 a.m., my phone exploded with texts. Dad, the movers showed up anyway. They're saying they can't access the building. Mom, security won't let them in. This is humiliating. There are other residents watching. Chelsea, please come down and tell security it's okay. We have all our stuff in the truck. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I watched from my 7th floor window as the scene unfolded below. A large moving truck idled outside the security perimeter. My family stood beside it, gesturing frantically at the security checkpoint. 2 armed guards remained unmoved, checking their tablets, shaking their heads. Another text from Chelsea. They're saying we need federal authorization. Natalie, please. Our stuff is in this truck. We're literally homeless. I called building security. This is Natalie Chen, Unit 7C. I understand there's a situation with an unauthorized moving truck. Yes, Ms. Chen. Your family members are insisting they have permission to move into your unit. We've explained the authorization requirements. They're becoming agitated. They have no authorization, I confirmed. They were informed yesterday that this building doesn't permit unauthorized residents. Please proceed with standard protocol. Understood. We'll require them to vacate the premises. I hung up and watched as a 3rd security officer approached my family. The conversation was brief. Dad's gestures became more animated. The security officer spoke into his radio. Within minutes, 2 more guards arrived. The message was clear. Leave now or be removed. The doorbell to my apartment rang suddenly, making me jump. I checked the security monitor. It was Building Management Director Patricia Morrison. I opened the door. Ms. Morrison. Miss Chin, she said professionally, holding a tablet. I apologize for the disturbance this morning. Your family members attempted to gain unauthorized access with a moving vehicle. Security stopped them at the perimeter as protocol requires. I'm aware, I said. They were informed yesterday this building has federal security requirements. They claimed you'd given them permission to move in, Patricia continued. One of them, your father I believe, became verbally aggressive with security staff. He threatened to call his lawyer and accused us of harassment. I closed my eyes briefly. I apologize for his behavior. You're not responsible for their actions, Patricia said firmly. However, I need to file an official incident report. Any attempted breach of diplomatic housing security is logged with the State Department. I need your statement confirming they had no authorization. They had no authorization, I confirmed. They announced yesterday they were moving in today. I explained the security requirements and that it was impossible. They chose not to believe me. Patricia made notes on her tablet. Were you under any duress when they made this announcement? Any coercion or pressure? They assumed I'd comply, I said carefully. They booked movers without my consent, assigned themselves bedrooms in my apartment, and called my home family property. But no direct threats. Understood. More notes. For the record, Ms. Chin, even if you'd wanted to authorize long-term guests, the process requires forms submitted 6 weeks in advance, full background checks and written justification from your department head. The timeline is typically 8 to 12 weeks. Their plan was impossible from the start. I explained that to them. Clearly they didn't listen. Patricia looked up from her tablet. The moving truck has been escorted off the premises. Your family members left in a private vehicle. Building security has flagged their names. Any future visit attempts will require your direct approval and escort from the lobby. That's appropriate, I said. One more thing, Patricia added, her expression softening slightly. I've been managing diplomatic housing for 15 years. Family incidents like this happen more often than you'd think. People assume federal security is negotiable when it comes to family. It's not. You did everything correctly, Ms. Chin. Don't let them make you feel guilty for following protocol. After she left, I returned to the window. The moving truck was gone. My family was gone. The security checkpoint had returned to normal operations. My phone was still buzzing with messages. Chelsea, they made us leave. Our stuff is in the truck. Where are we supposed to go? Dad, this is absurd. We're filing a complaint. You can't treat family this way. Mom, please call us. We need to figure this out. Brad, we're storing everything in a facility. It's costing $400. You owe us. I turned off my phone. 3 days later, I received an email from the State Department's Housing Authority. Subject line: Unauthorized access attempt, security report filed. The email detailed the incident. Family members attempting to move into secured diplomatic housing without clearance, claiming resident permission despite lacking proper authorization. Security had filed an official report. Was I experiencing any coercion or pressure from family members? Did I need additional security measures? I responded, no coercion. Family members made unauthorized plans without my knowledge or consent. Situation has been resolved. No additional security measures needed at this time. The response came within an hour. Understood. Your file has been noted. For future reference, any authorized long-term guests require advance approval as outlined in your housing agreement. Thank you for maintaining security protocols. I sat back in my home office, the room Chelsea had wanted to turn into Brad's gaming space. The room where I conducted classified briefings and managed encrypted State Department communications. The room my family had called wasted space. My phone powered back on, immediately flooding with messages I'd missed over 3 days. 17 texts from Mom. 23 from Chelsea. 9 from Dad. 4 from Brad, each demanding money for various moving-related expenses. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I opened my housing agreement and read through the security protocols again. The federal regulations that protected this building. The clearance requirements that made it impossible for unauthorized residents. The legal consequences for attempting to breach diplomatic housing security. Everything was there, clearly documented, legally binding. My family had tried to claim my home as family property. Federal law had other ideas. 2 weeks later, an envelope arrived via building mail system. Inside, a handwritten letter from Dad. Natalie, your mother and I have returned to our retirement apartment. Chelsea and Brad found a new rental, though they're struggling with the increased costs after breaking their previous lease. We're disappointed in how you handled this situation. Family should come first, but you chose government regulations over helping your own parents and sister. We thought we raised you to value family loyalty. Clearly we were wrong. When you're ready to apologize and make this right, we'll be waiting. Dad. I read it once, then fed it through my shredder. No apology would be coming. No guilt would be accepted. They tried to take over my home without asking, ignored federal law when it was explained, and now wanted me to apologize for enforcing boundaries they'd refused to respect. The shredded paper fell into the bin like confetti. Outside my window, the security checkpoint stood guard. Inside my apartment, 3 bedrooms remained exactly as they should be. Mine secured, protected by federal law. My family had called it wasted space. The State Department called it diplomatic housing. I called it home. And the authorization documents, the ones my family had never bothered to obtain, the ones that would have taken 12 weeks minimum to process, the ones that made their move-in tomorrow plan legally impossible from the start. Those documents told the real truth. This wasn't family property. It was protected federal housing. And no amount of entitlement could override that. The security protocols were clear. The legal boundaries were enforced. And my home remained mine. Exactly as it should be.